Hi, I'm Amina Wasima, and I'm here to talk about my novel, Amber Stone, Agent Zero, Episode 15, The Daughters of Alat. Now, we left off on Episode 14. Habid, Imani, and Halima were leaving Rasheed's palace because the NOO was attacking. And Rasheed ran to his bunker and left everyone to fence for themselves. So Habib takes his daughters and he leaves the palace, everybody's running in the streets, getting in their cars, trying to get out of the city of Iraq. And so he decides, well, we're not going to a house at this point because Rasheed hasn't given me an address to go to. So we're going to go to the mountains. So bombs are coming and, you hear gunfire and everybody's in their car trying to leave, to run to the mountains, because they know that the NOO is going to bomb the city. As soon as it gets dark, torpedoes and, will bombard the city. So they get in the car and they drive, through the traffic, and they drive along the road and they come to this massive mountain. And Habib he stops and he tells them to get out. And he will meet them at the cave at the top of the mountain because he's got to go and hide the car. So they don't want to get out, but they get out because they're there by themselves. And you can see other, Iraqi citizens, climbing the mountain, scattered about, as the planes are flying over, you can see them. And so they get out and he tells them, well, I'll meet you in the cave. So Halim and Imani began to climb the rocks. And Halima is going pretty fast because she's more tomboyish. And Imani is like, slow down, I can't keep up, So Halima slows down a little bit and, Imani catches up. And so Halima says, maybe we should tell Father what Rasheed did to us. And Imani was like, no, because if you tell, he's going to kill him, and just promise, you won't tell. So Halima said, well, I should tell, And so Imani was like, well, if you tell, he's going to kill Habib. And so Imani says, well, Rasheed is a Iblis. And Iblis is a evil spirit that causes trouble in people's lives. They're like a form of the jinn. And so Halim was like, no, he's not a jinn. He's an Iblis, but he's not a jinn. And because of your negative thinking, you've always been afraid of this, afraid of that, monsters under the bed. Maybe that's why we were in the predicament we were in. So we might as well don't blame me. Father is the one who brought us here. We should have stayed in Beirut. And so Halima says, I'm going to tell him, what happened. She's like, oh, don't do it. Promise me you won't. She says, okay. So they climb the mountain and they come to a cave and they enter the cave and it is smelling Oh, it's like almost 100 Iraqis and refugees are in the cave. Children, rich, poor, homeless. Everyone is huddled together in dirty clothes and rags. There's a lot of them, you know, just left their house. The house was bombed and they just had to run out to safety. And they had been there for a couple of days, not able to go back to their homes. But they refused to leave because it is their land and, they still have a claim on it. So Halima and Imani make themselves comfortable, and Habid comes in. He has his AK-47 with him. And there's Iraqi men and women, you know, and they're there. And there's a gawa, is a person who fixes coffee. And he has coffee and bread to give them. And they all crowd around and they eat and they drink. And night comes. And you can hear the bombs and you can see the red lights in the city. You look outside the cave, you can see it. And the mountain is shaking, from the planes zooming over. And they all huddle together and just pray that the bombing stops. And it goes on all night. Finally, around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, it stops and they can get some type of sleep. And they sleep. And they wake up around 11, 12 in the afternoon. And Habib decides, we're going back. And Imani and Halima look at each other. Go back to where? We're going back to Rasheed's palace. Because that's where the money is. That's where the guns and the food, and shelter is. If it's still standing. So Halima and Imani go into the cave. Further into the cave, there is a ice water spring, and they've set up sort of like blankets where the men can bathe on one side and the women on the other, and children. And Imani and Halima get into this freezing water and just bathe. And they get out and put the clothes back on. And Habib does the same thing. And now the sun is coming up because in the daytime, it's desert and it's hot. And so now it's scorching hot and they exit the cave and they go back to Rasheed's palace. On the way back, Imani has a daydream of her running up the mountain and an American soldier, NOO soldiers after her, and he grabs her and throws her off the mountain and she breaks her neck. She's just hoping, that she could just get out and run with the nomads and just disappear. She doesn't want to go back to the palace to see or face Rasheed. But he's Habib's friend, and Habib is oblivious to what he has done to his daughters. So they go back, and Habib tells them, you are the daughters of Allah. It's your duty, to pick up a rifle and fight. Even if you don't want to, you must. And we must go back. So they arrive at the palace. It's still standing. Everything else is in rubble. And the palace is still standing. And Habib parks his Jeep, and they get out, and there's a guard, takes them into the palace, and there's Rasheed. He returned from the bunker, and he's sitting there on his throne. And so Habib approaches him and said, we had to come back. Uh, we need shelter. We need food. We can't stay in the caves. And so Rasheed tells them, well, a family has left. I don't know if the house is still standing, but it's off the road from where the NOO soldiers are uh, coming with the tanks. And the house is filled with IUDs, the tools to make IUDs. And the family that was living there left. So I need you to go and teach your daughters how to make IUDs so you can set them in the desert and on the roads that the NOO soldiers are traveling. So Habib says, okay, that I'll do. So as he is there, Rasheed says, let's go to the lounge because my friend Abdul Hasid was hit by the bomb. He's my chemical warfare scientist, and the laboratory was destroyed, and he's dying. So Habib and Imani and Halima follow Rasheed into the lounge where Abdul Hasid is laying in a hospital bed, and he's dying. And his daughter comes in, and her name is Radia Hasid. And she has bandages on her whole face. Her whole face is bandaged. And all you could see is the eyes, and not the lips. Everything is bandaged up. And she's comes in, and she greets Rasheed, and he introduces her to Imani and Halima and Habib, and she talks to Abdul, and he tells her, you are a daughter of Allah, and I have $300 million in a Swiss bank account that I need you to withdraw and go to Libya and set up a cell. And she's like, well, I don't know why I should do that. And he tells her, I know about what you did in America and your indiscretions, and now I am dying, and I need you to take your rightful place. And the only reason Rasheed allowed him to believe in the religion, the Daughters of Allah, is because he was his chemical warfare scientist. And he needed it. And he also was a good friend. So Imani and Halima are listening to this. And they're thinking, oh my God, let us go with her. You know, if we could just go with her, we would be okay. You know, we would escape Rasheed, and you know, we would be in Libya. No one would ever have to know what he did to us. So Rhodesia says, okay. And he gives Rhodesia a slip with the Swiss bank account number on it. And he tells her to go to Libya. He has an underground complex there. So he dies right there, his last breath, Abdul. And Rasheed tells Habid to take Rhodesia to the Libyan border, you know, drive her there. And Imani and Halima want to go. But Habid turns to them and said, I'll be back, you know, to get you. You wait here, you know, you stay here in the palace until I come back. So they're terrified. They're thinking, oh my God, Rasheed is going to rape us again, you know, if we have to stay here. And so Habib and Rhodesia, she says goodbye to the girls and they exit the palace. And Rasheed looks at the two girls. He's so he's got so much on his mind that he just tells them, you know, leave me. And they leave and they go to the harem. Now they're thinking, well, is he going to come? You know, they talk amongst themselves. You know, is he going to come in, you know, tonight and rape us again? And Halima says, well, he's got too much on his mind. He probably won't, you know, because the Americans, the NOO, you know, are attacking the city. And he probably won't, you know, think to come in to the harem. So the girls enter the harem and there's no one there. All the ladies have gone into hiding. The pool is still there. And they take off their clothes and get in and bathe and enjoy themselves. Totally forgot all about Rasheed. And after, you know, they put on their pajamas and it's night and they get into bed. And they're wondering if he's going to come in and rape them or not. So, tune in for episode 16, Iraq, the Promised Land.